the right has always been pretty into cancel culture. They just packaged it up as a problem of the left. This has been going on for a long time, like, boycotting brands, complaining that they're not getting proper amplification. I'm sure you saw this. Remember when they were complaining, and then it's like the top 10 sites on Facebook, it was like 8 of 10 are right-leaning, the top podcasts, like. This video is just a preview of the full episode, which is available now on our own Raging Moderates YouTube channel. That's where we're bringing you more of the content you want, up-to-the-minute videos and conversations, in addition to the Wednesday and Friday pods, which you've been listening to for a while. You can click the pop-up link now or head over to youtube.com/@RagingModerates to subscribe. Hope you will. For people who are being silenced, they sure have a lot of control of the government and our media organizations. And on top of it, seemingly neutral organizations are now paying the administration gross sums of money and basically turning over editorial control. So I don't know. It rings a little hollow to me. I'm not surprised by it. And I don't really have time to be watching like press conferences in full or J.D. Vance hosting the Charlie Kirk show in full. But I do think it's really important that people actually start watching the entirety, if they can, of these things, because the true breadth and depth of the plan to take over the country and to be in every single facet of American life only is really exposed if you spend the hours that it takes to take it all in. And you notice more things. You notice the body language and what Stephen Miller is saying in the corner. You notice little things that J.D. Vance is slipping in, a note of what Tucker Carlson says. Again, it becomes a full-time job to do that. And I mean, I work in media, so I should be doing it. But that has been one of the big lessons for me of the last week. You certainly can't depend just on clip culture or what you see, flying by on your social media in order to be able to get the full story. And that's how a lot of these people that they're going after have, quote unquote, gotten themselves in trouble, because they've, posted something that Charlie Kirk said, but according to the administration, it's out of context, or that's not really what he said, or that's not really what he meant. And I think you really can't understand the plan, and the plan being Project 2025, unless you are taking this all in. So last week, we were all shocked and sad about what happened, devastated. I still can't really believe it, except that everything in the ensuing days has been about it. So I know that it really happened. But this week, I'm terrified. I'm sad and terrified about what is to come next. And I'm not sure if you saw it, but yesterday or last night, so Monday night, Pam Bondi went on this whole thing about how they're going to go after people for hate speech. Clear lack of understanding of the First Amendment, a violation also of what Charlie Kirk believed in. He had even posted about this before, saying there's no such thing as hate speech. There's gross speech and evil speech, but it's all protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. So AG Bondi realized she got over her skis, tried to walk it back this morning, saying, I'm only talking about, yelling fire in a crowded theater, right? If they're threats or they're going to lead to violence. But you see them testing, right? Like every little way that they can to see if they're going to get pushback. Because Pam Bondi knows what's in the First Amendment and what's protected and what's not. And I'm terrified. How are you?
So I'm good. I'm a little distracted. I'm going to a speaking gig and then I'm getting on a plane for New York. But so if someone were to say, campuses are struggling with this, when does free speech become hate speech? And most people err on the side, at least traditionally in America. And I believe that in a democracy, a key component of a democracy is that pretty much anyone should be able to say pretty much anything about pretty much anybody. So if somebody says that President Biden is dementia-riddled, should be imprisoned and possibly executed, is that hate speech? Does that foment violence against a political figure? Maybe, but I still think that person should be allowed to say it. And that is what Charlie Kirk said about President Biden. So Charlie Kirk, if you want to honor his memory, it's a lesson in free speech. So this just doesn't make any sense. Now, this is a complicated issue. And just to nod a little bit to some concerns on the right. A couple things. One, to date, very few people have been canceled for being too woke. You know, there were people driven out of companies. There were people whose series were canceled or fired because they said things that, quite frankly, the progressive community found hateful, and they were canceled. There were very few people who lost their jobs for being too woke. Now, it's a difference between being too woke and promoting violence. The other thing, and there's a couple other things that I just think you have to acknowledge as someone who likes to think they're data-driven. If you look at what happened during Black Lives Matter, and there was a study done on who was really emotionally triggered by Black Lives Matter. And what was interesting is when they distilled it down to demographic groups, what group was most emotionally rattled by the Black Lives Matter movement?
White women.
Young, educated white women.
Yeah.
They were like I'm not saying, not even virtue signaling or going to protest because it was cool.
Genuinely depressed.
They were genuinely rattled by it. And more rattled than their Black sisters and brothers. So there is something to the notion that this young, progressive community seems to be more easily triggered or more sensitive. The other thing I think we have to acknowledge is that moving to solutions on campus, the faculty we have done a terrible job of arresting this bullshit notion that, all right, the oppressed over here and the oppressors over here. And because a lot of very smart people show up to college and are naturally frustrated and feel aggrieved and angry about the injustices against special interest groups in this country, of which there's been a plethora, they go on the hunt for what I'd call fake racists. And when they find someone, a hapless English teacher that says something stupid, a student who expresses their free speech right, every year we have freshman orientation. And increasingly, it's about mental health. And we tell these kids, look, a lot of you, because you've led pretty charmed lives, to be honest, and have parents who've cleared out every obstacle, that if you get your heart broken or you get your first D, a lot of you, quite frankly, aren't as resilient as past generations, and you need to realize that you're going to be fine, and you need to tell your roommate, you need to tell a mental health counselor, you need to contact an administrator if you're ever having thoughts about violence or self-harm, and you're going to find out that you're going to be fine and we can help you. We spend more time doing that, and it's important because for a while at the university, we had to put up screens in the library because a bunch of kids were going to the 8th floor and jumping off the fucking 8th floor. So I also think what we need to start doing at universities, and some universities are doing this, is something along the lines of the following. If 1 in 3 of you, it used to be 1 in 5, and 1 in 3 of you now believe that words can equate to violence that justifies a violent response, you are wrong. And universities are meant to be safe places physically and dangerous places intellectually. And I love what the Michigan State chancellor did on the first day of freshman orientation on move-in day. He or she put up a huge banner, and it said something along the lines of, if words offend you, then you need to call your parents, have them come get you because you are not ready for college. The whole point is that we can bring in people like Charlie Kirk, and you are forced to think critically, get back in his face with words if you want, agree, expand your thinking, bring exceptionally woke people on campus, have them be challenged by critical thinkers from the right, and your brain gets taxed, it gets challenged, it gets damaged, and then it grows back stronger. And we send you into the world as a critical thinker that is more measured, more empathetic to both sides of the argument, such that we can craft better solutions. There is a problem on campus. Having said that, very few college people go out and kill people. The moment you enroll in college, you are less likely to take up a gun and violence because of the opportunities there, the critical thinking. They are more easily triggered by words, and we need to stop that. Having said that, the conflict or the conflict entrepreneurship, while you could argue there's a lot of it online from very progressive young people, it has absolutely been embraced by people much more powerful, specifically powerful people, elected representatives on the right. The majority of the elected representatives, if not all the elected representatives on the left, have been nothing but empathetic and said some version of the following. They condemn the violence, sympathy to him and his family.